Hi, I'm Marika and welcome to My Creative Quilts. Today I thought I would talk to you about rulers. You only need one really good ruler when you start, but over the years it's easy to collect a lot, and I do have quite a few. Some I use several times whenever I'm using a quilt, others I've barely touched and I wondered why I bought them. So I'm going to show you what I have and you can take from it what you need. I started almost 30 years ago with this ruler. It's a 6x12 rectangle from OmniGrid. There are many different companies that make rulers, and I stick with OmniGrid simply because it was what I started with. I do have rulers from other companies, but I tend to go to the OmniGrid. I'm used to the yellow lines on them. I'm just used to them. I'm a creature of habit, what can I say? So I put grips on them because when you're pressing on a ruler, when you're holding a ruler, you're not pressing on it, you're holding it. When you're cutting the fabric, it's easy for the ruler to slide. The ruler is slippery. So that can cause mistakes, but it also can cause accidents. You can end up cutting your hand. So we recommend that you put little grips on them. Some rulers come with grips, some of them you add them yourself, and they just make a big difference. Safety. The ruler won't move as easily if you have grips on them. So this is my go-to. Every single project I've ever worked on, I've used this ruler at least once on it. I use it for everything. The other ruler I bought when I first started was this long 12-inch ruler. I don't use it very often anymore, but it comes in handy. Just, like you said, you want to measure things, and but you can't really use it for cutting because it's not wide enough to hold on, but it's very good to measure. So I do use this one a good bit. The next one I use most often is my 24-inch ruler. Again, it's an OmniGrid. This is for when I'm cutting big pieces of fabric off of a bolt, or just a larger, when I'm trimming, when I'm squaring up quilts, this is what I'll use the most. I do have another 24-inch ruler. I actually have this one first. This one is from Fiskars. There's nothing wrong with it. I just never really used it a lot, and I actually forgot that I had it because one day I had a gift card and this 24-inch ruler came for sale, and I bought it, and when I got it home it was like, oh, I already have one. I don't use it. I don't know why. I guess, like I said, I'm a creature of habit, so I tend to go to the OmniGrid, but it doesn't matter. As long as it works and it's fine, you can use whichever one you want. I have some square rulers. I don't use them a lot. The most common reason for me to use a square ruler is when I'm trying to square off a block. So if I'm making a set of blocks that I'll need to be 6.5 inches, I'll use a 6.5-inch square to help do that. So this is a 6.5-inch square, and it's perfect. It's got the center and it's got the different sizing, so that if I want to do different size blocks, I can do that. This brand says that they sharpen your blade as you use it. I don't know if it does or not, but that's what they claim. And this one is by Sullivan's, and it's called the Cutting Edge. It comes in all different sizes and shapes. So this is the 6.5-inch block. I like it because it gives you that extra 1/2 inch for your seam allowance. If I know I want a 6-inch block, this is my go-to square. I have a larger square one, 10 by 10. I have to say I can't remember the last time I used it. It's handy to have, I guess. I must have used it a few times because it's got some grippy things on them, but I don't use it very often. I either want big or small. I rarely need in between. Someone told me I needed to buy this much bigger square. This one's 15 by 15. It wasn't cheap. It's an OmniGrid as well. And although I don't use it a lot, it does come in really handy, especially if I have to square something and I want the equal length on the sides and on the top. But I don't use it a lot. I think it's handy to have. I think you should get it if you're thinking about buying rulers to add to your collection. It's definitely not something you need right off the bat. This add a 1/4 inch ruler seemed like a good buy, but I have to say I've never used it. What it is it's your regular ruler, and then when you place it on the edge of the fabric, it gives you an extra 1/4 inch for your 1/4 inch seam allowance. I've just never had any reason to use it. I can't say buy it, don't buy it, good, it's good, it's not. I don't know. I just have it. This ruler I bought to make circles. As you can see, it angles downward, and you can see on it how high you want to cut your pieces and how wide you want to cut your pieces. And then when you cut your pieces, you sew them all together and they make a circle. These are fun. I've made a few. Obviously enough to put the grippy things on the back, and this one is by Fons and Porter, and it's a wedge template, it's called. I have several triangles. I have identical ones. I have two of these apparently. I bought one not remembering I had one. This is Companion Angle by Darlene Zimmerman. I've used it a few times. It's handy to have. It's not a must-have. You can make triangle cuts with your square rulers, your rectangle rulers. It's handy. This one from Wonder Triangles I bought because I do one block Wonder quilts, and you have to do 60-degree triangles for those. It's handy. I like it. Actually, no, this one isn't 60. Sorry, ignore what I just said. This one's not a 60-degree. This one is my 60-degree angle. This is the one I bought for my one block wonders, and it's from So Easy. It's designed in Australia apparently. I put little marks on there because when I was making my one block wonders, that's how big I wanted my triangles to be, so I put markers on there as well. This one I've used a good bit, so that one's handy. And then my other rulers are for ruler quilting. I didn't do a lot of ruler quilting on my regular sewing machine. I wasn't good at it. I don't know if it was the machine, I don't know if it was me, but I bought quite a few rulers. I was all into it. I thought it was a really great idea, and I just couldn't make it work. Now that I have my long arm, I'm having much more success. Luckily, my machines were high shank, so I had to get the thick rulers. You can't use just any ruler on a long arm. It has to be about 1/4 of an inch thick, otherwise it can slip underneath your needle while you're sewing, and you can break your needles out, throw off your timing, the whole bit. So, but luckily, most of the rulers that I got for that machine work with that machine, and I bought a few more since I got that one. So the first one I bought when I got the long arm was what they call a binding ruler. Apparently, you can bind a quilt on the long arm machine. I haven't tried it yet. I've used it just as a straight ruler. This one is by Quilt on the Corner. It has the line in between. That's what I really like it for. When I'm stitching in the ditch on that machine, although I could do it on that machine too, you put your foot in here and it keeps your machine from wobbling, which I tend to do. So you can see I've already got a few notches in here. That's the one thing when you're using rulers, check them every so often, because if you've hit them with your needle or you've banged them somewhere, you've dropped them, they can get notches in them which can throw your cutting off. So check. Like these notches, luckily, are not affecting the health of the ruler. I hit it with the needle twice, which I'm kicking myself for because I kept telling myself, be careful, don't do it. But I like it. It's a little bit longer than I like for holding. It's a little bit awkward. I find for machine quilting, I like my rulers to be a little bit smaller, but I'm happy with it. I like it. This one I've not tried yet. It's called Quilter's Ribbon Candy from DM Quilting. I just liked the idea of it. It caught my attention when I was looking at the website, and you can make ribbons with it when you're machine quilting. You can see the S's and the ribbons. So I'm gonna give that a try. I came across a new company. It's not new, a new to me company. It's in Canada, and because I'm Canadian, I like to support Canadian companies. So I've not tried them yet, but her rulers look very interesting. I like the way she designs it. I like her story. The company is called Silly Moon, and they're in British Columbia, Canada. This one she calls Turkey, and there's lots of different shapes that you can use for this one. So this one is the one that caught my eye, and I'm going to give this one a try soon. I also bought from her what I think is really important for me, because I do a lot of my stuff by eye, but my eye isn't so accurate. So this is what she called Spacey. And so when you're quilting, when you put it on the quilt, it gives you an idea. There's a 1 3/4 inch difference. There's 2 inch distance. There's 1 1/2. There's 1 1/4. There's 1/2 inch. So I don't need to eyeball it so much. I don't know how useful it's going to be. I think it will be very useful. So I'm looking forward to trying that one. This is a ruler I bought a few weeks ago. It's from Angela Walters, and it's called Sid. What I like about this ruler is you don't have to put any grips on it. She's designed it so that there are grips on the back of it. The drawback to that is if you're using a ruler that you can flip from side to side, because some rulers, to get the opposite angles. So if you're doing that, you don't have any grip on this side. But I think it's a great idea. And I've used it a few times. I'm not so good with the bracket side. I'm not sure if I'm not doing it properly or I just don't like it, but I've been definitely using the straight line a lot. It's well marked, and I'll probably buy more Angela Walters rulers. I recently bought some Westalee rulers, and I bought this gauge. This one caught my eye because it has an eighth, a half, a quarter, and an inch. So when you're planning a pattern on the long arm, you might want to space your quilt. So you make sure that your spacings are 1 inch or half an inch, and you want them to be consistent. So this, you can slide it next to your quilting, and then you know where to start on the next, and you know it will be an inch apart. So it's just a gauge. It's a handy tool. I'm a gadget person. I like gadgets. I have so many gadgets that I never use, but I think I'll use this one. It's got a little hole in it, so I can probably wear it around my neck like a necklace or something. This one is from So Steady. I've used this one a good bit. It makes a great clamshell, and you can also do some nice little hoops on there. Now, if you don't have a long arm, you definitely can use these on your machine as well, your sewing machine. But what I also use these for, so for example, this one is from So Kind of Wonderful, and I made some Metro rings, which are like double wedding ring quilts, and I put the quilt top on the table, and I drew my patterns with this. And that was just as good. I didn't follow it because I had learned that I just couldn't do ruler quilting on that machine very well. So I just drew it with water soluble ink. I drew the pattern, and then I quilted it with the walking foot, and it worked out really well. So, you know, if you have a ruler, or you see rulers that interest you, patterns that interest you, go ahead and get them and just draw them by hand. If you're intimidated by ruler work, that works as well. Then just other rulers I have. This one does a circle. This one, I haven't used this one yet. It caught my eye. It's a spiral. So I want to see what I can do with that. I'm not sure if it'll be any good or not. I have lots more rulers. Those are the ones, the cutting ones are the ones that I showed you that I use the most. And then there's these ones that are for the machine quilting. So use what's handy for you. Use what works for you. And you know, you may end up buying some rulers that you never use, give them to another quilter, sell them off secondhand, whatever works, and enjoy your quilting.